It's half-time in the 2022 F1 season. Already we've seen brand new cars, ground effect stars, a lap-by-lap fight, by day and by night.
Verstappen takes the lead!
Phenomenal racecraft again, what a battle.
Down to turn 4 and the Ferrari is through!
Mercedes bouncing, Carlos Sainz pouncing.
We did it! Yes! Vamos!
First points for Mick.
Mick P.A. You did it!
Alonso still quick.
Here in Montreal, on the front row, you almost had it.
Will attack Max on the first corner.
A George Lando podium.
Who would have thought?
And pandemonium in the mid-pack.
3 become 5 into turn 3, and that is just epic.
Close racing's back. Fights for the lead.
Wow, that was close.
Two teams with speed.
1-2 for Ferrari. Red Bull come to Ferrari's backyard and make it a 1-2.
Charles versus Max. Close on all tracks.
Beautifully done by Max Verstappen. Leclerc now, he'll go for the outside. Oh, wow! Fantastic move. That was stunning.
One starter crown. 11 races down.
And B1!
Yes!
I'm so pleased to say
Let's keep pushing, let's keep going.
we're only halfway. The second half of the 2022 F1 season starts this weekend. Welcome to F1 Nation, our preview of the French Grand Prix, with me, Tom Clarkson, and Damon Hill. Damon, I'm hot, like everybody else in the UK, I know, but I don't think I'm as hot as you were this time last week. Am I right?
And that is absolutely correct. Yes, because it was hot. It was hot where I was, but I was also on a bicycle climbing up a mountain. But unbelievable performance by Tom Piddock in winning that stage 12 of the Alpe d'Huez stage. And I got to say, if he ever wanted to do the Isle of Man TT, he'd probably get the lap record from that as well. Did you see him going downhill? I mean, this podcast, we're into speed, right? This guy was frighteningly quick, 100 kilometers an hour going downhill. I got on my monitor, I got up to about, I think I got 60k. So he was a whole 40k faster than me at one point going downhill, which is something.
Seen that picture of him? He's at 45 degrees. He's got his knee down, as you say, at 100 kilometers an hour. Phenomenal. But so the l'étape you were doing was the Alpe d'Huez stage.
Yeah, it was. But I didn't manage to make it. I was too slow. And they basically sweep you up. If you're not going to make the time, then they come around with a coach. They collect you. And let me tell you, that's one sweaty coach, I can tell you. There's about 50 cyclists who've been pedaling all day in 30 degrees heat. So, but I got a lovely tour of the Alps. but I wasn't in Austria and enjoying that race, so I had to come back and watch it all because I had to catch up. So it was exciting. Austria was exciting, a bit of a turnaround, bit of a surprise to see Ferrari looking like they've caught up Red Bull and making this a bit more of a championship for us, which is fantastic.
Damon, I'm interested that you say Ferrari have caught up Red Bull. I don't think they were ever slower than Red Bull, actually. I just felt reliability, strategy and circumstance played against them in recent races, not speed.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I saw that from Charles's quote saying that he always thought they had the speed. But I think what I meant was that on certain circuits, you'd put down it being a Red Bull track or, Ferrari would do better at certain other circuits. But in their backyard, in their own track that they have dominated now for quite a long time, to be clearly not as quick as the Ferrari was a surprise, I thought, and maybe an indicator that they've got some issues which might be handicapping them more than they want to. I mean, the tyre degradation thing on the Red Bull, it looked like they were suffering more than the Ferrari.
Let's break it down. We're exactly halfway through this season. 11 races in, 11 races to go. Who are your star performers so far?
I think you have to say that the guys you normally expect to see at the sharp end, Max and Charles, are there. Carlos clearly just a notch behind, but still able to perform in that Ferrari. Sergio again is not the lead man. He had his moment, and he still could be an effective driver. George Russell has been amazing and consistent, as we know. A bit of a touch there in Austria with Sergio. And I think on the Sergio going the outside thing, I think that was really Sergio was being very optimistic that he thought he could, put his foot down and, George wouldn't be able to avoid him. I didn't think that was reasonable. I thought it was very difficult for George to avoid him there. But so nearly lost a finish there. But, I think that Lewis has been unbelievable as well. I mean, Lewis has been just once he gets into a race, he gets this another level that kicks in. So thinking through the field, who else? Obviously Lando, fantastic performances. So star performers are those few, I'd say. And there's been some good performances by the likes of Albon and the likes of Joe Granu as well. And there's some little sparks there of hope for other drivers.
What you're highlighting is the strength in depth that we have in Formula One at the minute. But I'm going to pick three guys when we're talking star performers. I think Max Verstappen would be my number one driver so far this year, 6 wins. Just the coolness of Max Verstappen has impressed me as much as his speed this year. I felt he was a little too impetuous last year. I thought he was sometimes too harsh with Lewis Hamilton in the wheel-to-wheel racing. A much cooler head on him this year. And as a result, I think we've seen him play the percentage game. Even in Austria last weekend, I think he accepted that Charles Leclerc had the faster car underneath him and therefore didn't actually fight him for the lead as hard as I think we would have seen him do in 2021. So a very mature, fast version of Max Verstappen in 2022. And then my second would be Charles Leclerc with his 3 wins. I mean, boy, he should have so many more wins than that this year. I'm thinking Monaco, I'm thinking Spain, just to name 2 races. But Leclerc has really, I think, raised his game this year. I think he's seen the opportunity presented to him by the team, by giving him a quick car, and he's risen to it. He's got his head around these new cars very quickly as well. Been hugely impressed by him. And as you say, DH, George Russell, what was it? The opening 9 races inside the top 5. Phenomenal, including 3 podiums. Actually reminds me, Damon, of Lewis Hamilton, who his opening 9 races of his Formula One career at McLaren, they were all podiums, but the consistency of Hamilton when he first came into Formula One in a front-running car was what impressed everybody back then. And I think it's the same with Russell now, speed and consistency again.
I think George still has a little bit to learn. I'm sure he'd admit that. But on your assessment, I would say also Charles is possibly lost out at Silverstone as well by another strategy thing. So it may have been Charles instead of Carlos at Silverstone. So yeah, but we forgot to mention Mick Schumacher as well, who has had a little bit of a spurt forward, a leap forward, I think, and it looked like it was all going south, and then suddenly he's rebounded. He's hit the bottom and bounced like a person on a space hopper.
You're thinking back to Silverstone. And Damon, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? So he had obviously a huge accident in qualifying at Saudi Arabia, and then another one in the race at Monaco. And after the race in Monaco, I was thinking, help, what is Mick going to do to get himself out of this hole that he's dug himself? And I don't know whether it's something that Günther Steiner has said or whether he's had a word with an ex-racer like yourself, but something has happened since that crash in Monaco, and he turned up 2 weeks later in Baku and was immediately, I felt, consistent. And then since Canada, he's been right up there. It's been tremendous to watch.
Something's new, something's different, something's better. And sometimes it can be just that staring into the abyss of the reality of our sport, which is that you could find yourself not in Formula One, and that kind of can spur you. You can lie in bed at night and go, blimey, it really could happen. I might lose my job.
Can I come down in defence of Mick Schumacher in that, in a way, I feel this is his first season in Formula One. Last year's Haas was so off the pace that really he was just battling his teammate Nikita Mazepin, whereas this year, for the first time, he's battling other cars. He's in with a shout of, getting through to Q2 and sometimes on occasion Q3. I feel that in a way for him, this is year 1. And so, yes, it's going to take half a season to get up to speed, isn't it? For most people anyway. And he's doing a great job.
Yeah, I think that in his F2 season, it was, in his career, he looked like he was a slow learner, but he got there in the end. And I think that's the point, is that, if you compare him to his dad, obviously, Michael arrived and bam, there he was straight away, fully formed. But I think, Mick give the guy a little bit of a break. I think he's had a lot to do with growing up, and he's showing that he's applying his intelligence. He's a very smart kid, and I'm sure that the criticism has had an effect, but it's not been a negative effect. And I think having a teammate like Kevin was suddenly a bit of a shock to the system as well. And sometimes you can it can set you back, and then you have to regroup, and suddenly you realise, wow, Formula One really is the most challenging category of racing. The competition is so fierce, it's so intense, that you do have to reset your targets. You think you're trying the best, you think you're giving it everything, but then you realise you're actually underperforming to what your true capacity is, and you have to really dig deep in Formula One. You will get found out.
Before we talk about the French Grand Prix, can I add one more star performer to our list? I'm going to throw the cars in. I'm going to throw the 2022 regulations in there. I think overall, these regulations have been a huge success. There is no doubt in my mind that the cars are able to race closer together. We've seen it time and time again. And the field is closer together. That midfield is outrageously close. So I think they've achieved everything they set out to do. Yes, we'd all like to see them a little bit lighter. And maybe that's something we can change going forward. But I think the fundamental aerodynamic philosophy of these cars has proven to be a great success. And hats off to Pirelli as well. These 18-inch tyres are more raceable, more durable, less prone to overheating, and so big shout out, big, I'm going to big up these 2022 regs.
I think it's a good call, Tom. I think that's definitely the case. I think I'm going to bring in the cycling again. I'm going to suggest that now we've got almost like a pursuing pack, because when you get these DRS trains, it wouldn't happen unless the guy could get to within 1 second in a corner. So a circuit like Austria, where you've got this middle section, which is basically all corners, guys are able to get right up under the guy's back of the car and actually stick with him close enough to get through the last one, and then get onto the straight close enough to get a proper toe. So you get these DRS trains of groups of cars keeping up a faster pace than they might have otherwise done on their own.
We're in agreement, Chief.
It's the peloton. Only they're not pedaling.
Take your business to the next level with LinkedIn Jobs. If you've got plans to expand your team but need some support in finding the right candidates for the role, LinkedIn Jobs can help you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Creating a free job post takes a matter of minutes, and you can tailor it to ensure you're targeting the best people by making full use of their inbuilt tools like screening questions, which will help you quickly prioritize who you want to interview and hire. The key is to make your post clear and concise and make it work for you. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can tap into the world's largest professional network of more than 810 million people. And my top tip is to ensure you add the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to let your network know you're hiring and spread the word too. It's no wonder small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. And did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/F1Nation. That's linkedin.com/F1Nation to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Tom, who is our next guest, or our only guest, I should say, on this week's show?
Drum roll, please. He raced in 210 Grand Prix, winning 10 of them, 5 of them for Ferrari. He also raced for McLaren, Benetton and Arrows. He's a legend in his own lifetime. Welcome to Gerhard Berger.
Yay!
Damon, what do you do this time in the morning? I ask for this time to be sure that you have to get out of your bed.
It doesn't take long, does it? It's before you start getting ribbed by Gerhard. He goes straight in there. Not even a hi, nice to see you. It's like So you're a Ferrari driver. Once you're a Ferrari driver, you're always a Ferrari driver. I know you've got your Austrian connections, so the Red Bull team are an Austrian team, but how pleased are you to see Ferrari up there now? And they're going the right direction. Seems to have got themselves, organised, haven't they?
You are right. I'm sometimes really struggling, because as you say, I was 6 years in Ferrari, and when you're once a Ferrari driver, you're always a Ferrari driver. It's something very special. But at the same time, I have to say, I start my relationship with Red Bull before the company Red Bull was even started. Back in 1985 when I was with Eros.
Can we throw it back to the Austrian Grand Prix to start with and talk about this battle between Leclerc and Verstappen? Your two teams, Ferrari and Red Bull. Just sum up that race. Leclerc wins it, his third victory of the year. He has to overtake Verstappen to do that. What did you make of that battle?
I think I see it first as great for Formula One. We need this. We need it even better. We would need even another two brands being between a McLaren or whatever. But we are already, after all the years with Schumacher, all the years with Lewis Hamilton, we are already happy to see two different brands fighting each other in the last 2 years. But I think to have Ferrari back in the game is fantastic. It would be even nice if Mercedes would be somewhere between two, But we are seeing good races. We're seeing very good racing already. And I think Ferrari, I think Formula One is back as the fans deserve to have. And having one of the teams, Ferrari, fighting for the championship helps a lot to Formula One.
We're going to Paul Ricard next. What was once called the high-tech test track, if I've got that right. So, guys, let's throw it forward and talk about this weekend's French Grand Prix. Is it just going to be Gerhard's conflicted Red Bull and Ferrari, or are we going to see Mercedes fighting back?
Paul Ricard always was a little bit different. It was very smooth. It's a very different style of circuit. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a Mercedes works a bit better there. It's very flat. But in general, yes, it will be again a fight between Ferrari and Red Bull.
It's really the track that kind of launched Adrian Newey into his career, really, because of the March, isn't it? You remember that? Was it Capelli who was winning or leading for a long time? But it worked because that car, it needed a smooth track. It was a very stiff car and it worked very well aerodynamically, but it had to be low to the ground, and it was like a billiard table, wasn't it? So smooth track, brilliant for aerodynamics, which may help the Mercedes if they haven't fixed their porpoising or they need to get that car low to the ground. But as you say, it's a tyre killer. It absolutely eats your tyres.
And Damon, we've seen the Mercedes have managed to improve the porpoising situation at both of the last two races. They don't seem to have the tyre deg issues that Ferrari and Red Bull have had. Both of those teams have complained of tyre deg. And then we only need to throw it back to last year's French Grand Prix when, I know, very, very different situation now, different cars, different tyres, but neither Ferrari finished in the points last year because of issues with the front tyres. I wonder if this has got Lewis Hamilton written all over it this weekend.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, all what Damon just described was what I was saying too. The circuit is very special, but I have to say the March at the time worked in many circuits. A bit like my Benetton in 1986. These two cars was solid suspension, very close to the ground, and worked very well on Zeltweg, very well in Ricard. But the Mercedes didn't work really well anywhere this year, and it could be maybe a bit better, but I don't think it will go so much in this direction that they're suddenly going to play a role to win the race. For me in the winter, when they brought this new regulation and when the first tests was, and we understand that this is back again, and Damon can remember very well, we had this absolutely in the 80s and beginning of 90s, very strong. I remember the McLaren was disaster, bouncing the whole time.
Gerhard, can we get your thoughts now? Put your helmet back on and just imagine you're racing Leclerc and Verstappen in particular this year. What has impressed you about those two guys on track?
Leclerc's impressed me with his talent, with his speed on one lap in qualifying. He's doing very, very well. In the racecraft, I have seen a little bit the advantage to Max, Max is brilliant over the whole race. To use every possibility, is very strong on overtaking, is very strong in wheel-to-wheel fighting, he's very strong on reading the race, combined with the strategy of guys of Red Bull, who are extremely good. The good pit stops of Red Bull, I think it's nearly an unbeatable package. Saying this, maybe the Ferrari has, in certain circumstances, a little bit an advantage, and Leclerc is using it very well. He's a super quick driver, super good. But to be honest, last race, with the technical reliability issues they are having sometimes, you will see Sainz also maybe taking points away, as maybe would happen last race. I mean, last race with the throttle issue, Sainz would have even a chance to win the race. And then this starts really hurting very much for the championship.
No, I was just going to ask Tom about, the experience of being in a team like Ferrari and the question of whether or not Ferrari should be favouring Charles. And we've had a couple of races where maybe he was disadvantaged, and it might not be in a tactical point of view. It might be better if Ferrari were giving more points to Charles to beat Max. But it seems like they're being as fair as possible between the two drivers. Is that a mistake, do you think?
No, we are in a sport. And I think in a sport, as long both drivers have possibility to win the championship, it shouldn't be played. That's my personal opinion. We have in history some teams what played this always very hard, and they've been extremely successful, even being sport. Like, Williams was maybe the leader of everything. And this, he didn't care, Mansell, Piquet, or whoever, or you with whoever it was, maybe in the last race, but not before. So I have to say, now they're shouting all to Ferrari and say, well, they don't know what they're doing. But in the end, they maybe learned when Barrichello had to let Michael Schumacher pass in a Red Bull ring with Jean Todt at the time. Maybe they learned of it and say, well, we would like to have the sport in the focus. And if so, I like very much. But it could be in the end of the day hurting. Long term, maybe not.
Do you think Verstappen races Leclerc in a different way to how he raced Hamilton last year?
I think Verstappen is even better than last year. I think to win a championship, it takes a lot of pressure away from you. People say to me, Ferrari is doing so many mistakes. And I say, well, last year, nobody would believe Ferrari is doing such a big step forward on the technical side. If, as Ferrari fan, if you would have the possibility to buy, you would buy, say, well, Ferrari going to be second next year with such a car. Everybody would say, great. But now they are trying to fight the championship, but they didn't fight the championship since years. So the sensoric is not used, they are not ready yet to fight in the championship like Red Bull, who fight until the last race with Lewis Hamilton last year, with every small detail, what it means for a championship. So I think Ferrari is still going to make on a position like they are at the moment, take another 1 or 2 years until the team is ready again to win the championship. And that's a normal procedure. And I mean, it can happen. It can be maybe the car is so good that they're going to win the championship already this year. But if they really have to fight, Red Bull has an advantage from the last year's fighting for the championship.
Do you think Leclerc is ready to win the World Championship?
He did 1 or 2 mistakes this year, what shouldn't happen already when he really is serious for the championship. Imola and the chicane, just finish third, take the points. This is where Lewis impressed me so much. Lewis is just always there. Whenever the door then is open, he's on the podium and take the points as much he can. Where Leclerc is not in these areas, Leclerc is still need a little bit experience, but in general, he's absolutely a guy that can win championships.
You mentioned Lewis Hamilton. Look, how tough is it for him this year, after so much success, to suddenly be in what he would consider an average racing car?
Should I tell you what I think is the toughest for him? For him, the toughest is that he lost the championship last year, because with last year, he would put himself in the books as the most successful Formula One driver ever. And not winning this championship means is Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton. And this, for him, in the way how he thinks to beat all the records, what he did very impressive until now. This is something where he needs to still win one championship. But in Formula One is here, I need to win this championship. It doesn't work. It comes or doesn't come. And I think this is something where for him was probably going to be a difficult situation. Then having the car as he has, you can see when the car starts to work a little bit better and he can go to the podium, he finds his performance again.
It's after racing, isn't it, Gerhard? People ask you, how did you get on? I won 7 world titles. There was this other guy that won 7 world titles as well. Yeah. But I won more races. It doesn't sound as good as I won the most. That 8th title is so tantalizingly close for him. Do you think he'll get there? Can you see it happening?
It could be really difficult because now with the new regulation, Mercedes has first to catch up the others, not thinking about having an advantage as they had very often the last years. So now it could be a long way.
This episode of F1 Nation is sponsored by NordVPN. For the price of just a cup of coffee each month, NordVPN can help you access the internet safely and securely, so you never need to worry about your personal data being shared when you're accessing public Wi-Fi. And if you're anything like me, you probably find you often need to access public Wi-Fi to work, pay for items, or access your personal banking information while you're on the move. And one thing to remember is that the security of these spaces is never guaranteed, so the best way you can protect yourself is with NordVPN. With NordVPN, internet traffic is routed through a secure encrypted tunnel which protects data and privacy. And you don't need to sacrifice your internet speed in the process. There are 5,500 plus servers based in 58 countries, so you can find a server near you for better speed. And if you find you're working across multiple devices at any one time, don't worry, because you can also have NordVPN on up to 6 devices, and it's compatible with every major platform, so all of your devices will be fully protected. Even your Android TV supports NordVPN. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/F1Nation to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 1 additional month for free. And it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. I feel if we're talking all things French Grand Prix, we need to talk about the French drivers, the French team, Alpine as well, now tied on points in the Constructors' Championship with McLaren. So they've taken a step forward relative to last year. But Gerhard, your thought on Gasly, on Ocon, on Alpine?
Let's start with Alpine. So long in the sport, and they've been in a professional way in the sport, no question. They had always good people, good drivers. There was really great drivers, Alain Prost and even now with Alonso and Ocon.
Now, you can employ one of Esteban Ocon or Pierre Gasly. Who impresses you the most?
Difficult to say for me. Gasly is doing a really great job. We know that he was struggling next to Max. You always have 3, 4, 5 guys in Formula One. They're very special. And whenever you put somebody next, then you can see if he can follow it or if he even gets slower through the pressure. Gasly, once he was out of this world of Max Verstappen, he showed again a very great performance. And Ocon is a good guy. I know him from Formula 3. I watched him very clean. I have a little bit feeling that he's a little bit Alain Prost style. Smooth, quick.
But a lot taller.
A lot taller, yeah. But both, I would say both very good drivers.
One quick one, because the German-speaking world, I think, are very interested in this chap, Mick Schumacher. He seems to have turned a corner, Gerhard. Do you think, has he been under a lot of pressure from the media? I mean, it's the name is not much of a help, isn't it? I mean, it's to be a Schumacher and being Formula One is taking a lot of attention, perhaps unwelcome.
Well, I think it has at least as much advantage as disadvantage. So it balances it in the end of the day. But once you arrive, I think until you arrive in a place where it's an advantage. Now he just needs to deliver. And I think it looked like that he needs all this pressure to be capable to deliver what he has to deliver. And I think when this pressure starts with Günther Steiner and so on, and all this discussion starts, suddenly it made click with Mick, and he did a bloody good races.
I think that's interesting, yeah.
And really feisty as well.
It was clear from the beginning on that he needs to be faster than Magnussen. If you are a young driver and coming up and you won't be one of the new stars, you need to beat your teammate. And the last two races, I said, well, maybe he's capable to do it.
Like me then, he needs lots of pressure on him. I always drove better when I was, being threatened with being fired.
Or me when I had to do a new contract and get a bit more money out. I find another half second.
Oh dear.
We didn't talk about Russell yet. I see he's doing a great job, I have to say, the whole season. I mean, next to Lewis Hamilton, to be consistently always on the same level and even quicker sometimes, it's very impressive. Huh?
Guys, before we leave the French Grand Prix, let's get all of our top three. Gerhard, what's your top three for this weekend coming?
Well, I think, let's put Max winning the race. Leclerc, Sainz. I know it's a little bit, you were expecting that I would put Russell, Daniel, and Mick.
Okay. Damon?
Top three. Well, Gerhard gave us top six. I saw him under pressure there going for the last three, but he did very well. I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton. I think there's going to be an incident. We've been talking about how well they've been getting on. I think that first corner is a bit tricky, the little chicaney thing. Let's say Charles loses his front wing or Max gets a puncture or something like that. And maybe even on pure pace, the Mercedes springs a surprise, because I think in their race trim, Lewis has been on occasions very, very quick. And you got two guys, it could even be Lewis first, George second, and Carlos Sainz third. How about that?
Which passport are you having? There is something in it, because it's brilliant how Max and Leclerc are racing each other and giving space to each other. So they don't do stupid things. Really, really, very highly professional, very good. But one moment will be not enough space, and maybe that's weekend. Maybe that's the weekend.
But Gerhard, they've been there before. Austria 2019. Do you remember they hit each other 2 laps to go? I think it was right at the end of the race.
It will come again. It was too smooth now the last few races.
Well, I'm with Damon. I think Mercedes are gonna let rip this weekend and be really impressive, and we're going to see Lewis Hamilton back to his best. So Hamilton first God, can you imagine if we had Hamilton, Verstappen and Leclerc all going for the win?
What's going on with you guys there on the island? You're drinking or what?
Questions, please.
Damon Hill, do you think it's time maybe you should change your approach to racing?
Well, I don't know even how to start answering that question, but anyway.
It's the Williams leading, Damon Hill!
Some more questions, please.
Damon, were you happy with the start?
Damon Hill, congratulations for this winning, Damon. You must be satisfied.
Any questions? Yeah.
Well, Damon, it must have been absolutely gutting that last couple of laps.
Damon, it looked like you had it really under control.
Some more questions, please.
Damon Hill has done a fantastic job!
Right, this bit's called Ask Damon, where our listeners from all over the planet come in and ask me an awkward question. And I have to answer it and make it look like I know what I'm talking about. So, Gerhard, listen carefully to what the next question is.
Hi, Damon. This is Hudson from the United States. I'm wondering what the most extreme weather was during a Formula One race.
Hudson, wow, difficult conditions. Very good question, and it's great to have you on, and you're probably our youngest ever Ask Damon questioner, so congratulations on that. And I've got a guy who has driven in all conditions here with me, Gerhard Berger. Gerhard, what was the most difficult conditions that you have won a race? I'm sure you did. You didn't do Fuji, did you? That was going back too far.
Very clear, Damon. One race, very clear. You've been into Adelaide 90, whatever it was, when the rain fell and stopped after the first lap.
Adelaide 1991, 14 laps.
Thankfully, I wasn't there.
You wasn't there. Well, that was something very, very spectacular and difficult.
How much could you see?
I couldn't see the front wing. We was driving and listening the engine noise of the others. It was unbelievable. And funny story. That wasn't a warm-up, and the race was a little bit delayed, and then the cars was up to the starting grid, and the conditions didn't get better, and we was already in the car, and raining and foggy and nothing, and I say, impossible to drive. Somebody gonna die. Alan came in first race. We did the race. Nobody died, and everything was fine.
Purely by chance. I mean, I seem to remember who was it? Senna went into the back of Martin Brundle or something like that. In
yes, he did.
Yeah.
And I mean, they just couldn't see each other. That was appalling.
What about you, Chief?
Well, difficult conditions nearly always mean wet races, doesn't it? So I'm thinking of Spa in '98, which was ridiculously wet. There was also Suzuka '94, where we had a tropical storm. What was it? A tornado? What do they have? A cyclone. And yeah, races like that put you really to the test. And it's interesting how it's changed since Gerhard's day. I do remember the similar situation where it had been raining in the warm-up, and then we went and sat in our trucks to try and take cover, and then we came out, we realised it had been raining ever since the warm-up, and it was getting harder and harder, and we sat in our cars on the grid, and I looked out at what looked like an infinity pool in front of me. I was on the front row, front pole position, I think, and it was just nothing but shimmering water, like it was a swimming pool.
There is a small line between a wet race where you cannot drive it anymore because it's uncontrollable, but this is very, very rare. And in general, you should just go and get it. This is the job of the drivers.
Hudson, many thanks for that question, and I hope Damon and Gerhard have answered it for you. And although we haven't got time to do any more Ask Damons this week, please keep firing them in, because we're going to do some Ask Damon specials during the August summer break. Whole episodes dedicated to your questions and our answers. So wherever you are in the world, however long you've been watching Formula One, we'd love to hear your questions. They can be about the current season, Damon's career, or anything else you like about this wonderful sport. So please record them as an audio file on your phone. You can use the voice memo app to do that.
Email them to me at askdamon@f1.com.
Okay, so please get those in. Ask Damon absolutely anything. We'll pull out our favourites for the episodes in the summer break. I feel like we've discussed it all today, Gerhard. Thank you very, very much for coming on the show. As ever, fantastic to speak to you.
Yeah, it's also good to talk with you, because it's always a good mixture between professional questions and answers and having some fun.
And it's always good to see your cheeky smile as well, Gerhard. Probably one of the cheekiest Formula One drivers ever.
Thank you.
You're looking well. Thanks for coming on.
Damon. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Great
nice
to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gerhard. Now, look, hey, Damon, one more thing before we go. Colton Herta tested the 2021 McLaren at Portimao last week.
I just wrapped up 2 days of testing here in Portimao in the MCL 35. It's an amazing car to drive. It's very special for me. It's because it's my first F1 test, and so I'm very fortunate, very thankful to McLaren for giving me this opportunity. It's been an amazing 2 days getting acclimated into this car. For sure, very different to what I've done before, but it's been a lot of fun, and everyone's been great, helped me out, get up to speed, and it's been an awesome 2 days of testing, and thanks for having me, McLaren.
By all accounts, he was decent, properly decent. Oh, what's Daniel Ricciardo making of that?
Well, I think it's been stated fairly emphatically that we'll see Daniel back next year. So it's come from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So, yeah, Daniel's there. There's no threat to Daniel being replaced. Daniel has got pace to find a little bit. He's not been too far, but not what we've come to expect from Daniel Ricciardo and Colton Herta waiting in the wings, and of course the importance of having an American driver in Formula One with the rise of Formula One, especially in the States. Would be massive. So I can see that from a marketing point of view and from an excitement point of view, we'd love to see Colton or maybe some of the other drivers having a crack at F1 and keep up that tradition that's been long. I mean, you go back to, you had Richie Ginther, of course, Dan and Phil Hill, of course, and Dan Gurney, Mario Andretti. So it's not like they haven't been over here and had a good go, and we need some more of them.
Yeah, we certainly do. Great to see Colton going so well last week. Well, Damon, I think that's it. I'm about to get on a plane, head to the south of France for what is going to be a stunning Grand Prix.
Tom, is just so tough. I am slightly jealous. I will be staying homebound, but I'm back in Monza. That's my next race, so I've got a whole of the summer off.
Well, time for you to get back on your bike. Folks, thank you very much for listening. We're going to be back on Tuesday, the 26th of July. I'll be at Paul Ricard with the last word on the French Grand Prix. Make sure you hit the follow button on your podcast app so you get that episode as soon as it's released. So thanks again for listening.
F1 Nation is produced by Formula One and Audio Boom Studios.